Welcome back to Hey Eintracht Frankfurt, the Bundesliga podcast covering everything there is to know in the English language about Eintracht Frankfurt and Eintracht Frankfurt Frauen. I am Chris here in the middle of Michigan, coming to you a little bit earlier this week. Just want to give you a rundown for upcoming shows. Tonight is the Frauen season preview. If you're looking for a men's recap to talk Valencia or their upcoming schedule, check back shortly because we're going to have that coming later this week, maybe early next week. We'll see how things play out with the Pokal match next Monday. That's going to throw a wrench into everything as well. But we're here to talk Frauen tonight, how you can get in contact with the show. Of course, our website, HEFpod, HEFpod.com, and then Instagram at Hey Eintracht Frankfurt, x.com/HEFpod. It's still Twitter. Let's be honest, it's Twitter. And then wherever you find us on Facebook, we link through a lot of groups there, and Reddit, we picked up some followers there. We appreciate everyone who's joined our Discord after Louisville, and I had a nice Twitch appearance the other night with 50 plus donor. I appreciate Jake for getting me on there. It's a fantastic product. Talked about the Eintracht trip to Louisville and expectation for the men this coming season. So check him out, 50 plus donor on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, etc. But we're here to talk Eintracht Frauen tonight. And to do that, I brought in the two best guys I know with the most insight into the women's side. And let's start right down the road from me in the burbs of Detroit. Garret, how you doing, buddy?
Chris, it's always great being on, always great talking not just Eintracht Frankfurt, but Eintracht Frankfurt Frauen, because last year seemed to be a great year in the transition from the Eintracht Frankfurt Frauen, and I feel like this is about to be a year where it's just going to hopefully take on and extend from that.
For sure. I agree. I can't wait to talk about that. And then, of course, another friend of the show, longtime contributor on the Frauen side, John out in Delaware. Are you in Delaware or are you traveling now?
Yes, no, I am in Delaware right now. I'll be in New Jersey next week, unfortunately, but,
Jersey!
John, tell us about your trip to Louisville. We met up down there. You weren't able to stay for the match, but tell us your experience meeting up with the friends there and the club and everything you experienced. Did it meet your expectations?
Absolutely. No, it was so much fun being in Louisville. Getting to meet up with you guys was awesome. I did end up getting to go to the Louisville match on Saturday. Don't necessarily remember all of it, but they won pretty heavily, which I realize is not good news for you guys, but still fun to go to a match. And then, of course, getting to go to the practice on Monday and the fan event on Monday night was something special, and it was a great experience.
Yeah, I teased it in our
exactly
recap.
I was going to say, I think the two of you know what I'm going to say. I'm not saying.
I know you want to squeeze it in.
Lou City.
We don't like Louisville. That's what he's saying.
Lou Cindy, Nick Finden.
There you go. We teased it a little bit last week. We, at the fan event with the club, we had the opportunity to collect signatures, and all the credit goes to John. He did a great job collecting player signatures that we're going to distribute out to people that listen to the show and interact with us. We got a lot more coming on that. Matt and I have been spitballing a few ideas, but we're going to be getting those signatures out to people all year long. Probably start with that Pacho one, because I just don't like it sitting on my desk now. He's gone. We'll see how
I had a bad feeling that one could wind up like that, but
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. Maybe the person with the worst prediction in week 1 will get that one. I don't know. But anyway, we're here to talk about the Frauen, and to talk about the upcoming season. We got to look backwards a little bit. I'm going to give a little context before we talk about last season. Because I stated openly that I thought this team was ready for a title run. And I don't think I quite understood what they were up against from a historical perspective. That being the sense that, once the FFC transition and integration into Eintracht Frankfurt came about, and a young club, a lot of promising young talent, I didn't realize how big that gap was. As someone new to the Frauen Bundesliga, I didn't quite comprehend this historical context. All we knew is FFC had 7 league titles, all of them this century pretty much, one in the late 90s, but 7 titles over 10 years. And then they put on this crest and you're like, oh yeah, we're going to win a lot. But I didn't really understand the context of it, because the last time that a non-Bayern Munich or Wolfsburg had finished 1 or 2 in the table was the 2013-14 season when FFC finished second. So basically for the last decade, it's been a 2-team league. And that idea that we were going to jump from third the previous year to being first or even second might have just been a little bit of a reach. After finishing 5th and 6th in the last couple of years of FFC, and then 6th the first year under the Eintracht banner, the context that I want to bring in, 21-22 season, finished third in the Bundesliga, 9 points behind second, 13 behind first. 22-23 season, finished third in the Bundesliga, 3 points behind Wolfsburg, 5 behind Bayern. So within shouting distance that last couple weeks. A few weird things happened that year that probably made it a little closer than expected. Turbine Potsdam was relegated. And for those that don't know, they're historically a top 4 team in the league. They've got a shitload of titles under their belt. So some weird things were happening around that time. Maybe we finished a little higher than expected, or certainly points-wise. I think table the third was appropriate. But last year, I go out spouting about how we're going to go win this and that. Again, not using context, I forgot how big that gap is. And then when you bring into play additional tournaments, playing in the Women's Champions League, we're going to talk about that, making a deep run into the Pokal, another thing that we talk about on the men's side is it's become routine now, balancing 3 different schedules. And I think, to borrow the term my parents always said, you bit off more than you could chew. I put so many mashed potatoes on my plate, and I tried to shove them all in my mouth at once, and then I got sick. Well, I think that's what happened with this women's side. And we'll talk about it a little bit here. The highlights from last season. There was a little bit of revenge factor, John, going into the season. The way that we lost out to Ajax in the Champions League playoff or qualifying tournament the year before, getting the opportunity to host that at Deutsche Bank Park, certainly a highlight for me, watching them advance, beating Juventus in penalties to get to the next round of the Champions League, really showed a lot of growth. John, at that point in the year, not knowing what yet was coming, didn't that really feel like revenge from the year before that it sat so bad after the Ajax loss?
It felt really good because, that Ajax loss, losing at the last second on a corner in a game where we had the chances to win that, that stung. And obviously, facing Ajax again and beating them would have been nice, but, Juventus is a very, very solid team. And quite frankly, I think we were the better side in that game for the most part. Had some chances to win in extra time, but, got the job done in penalties. Thank you, Stina Johannes. Oh my gosh. Because we had some poor penalties in that too. But yeah, no, that was really nice to, especially at home. What a moment.
Was that one of those matches where we started realizing that Laura Fragang is not great at penalties?
Yeah, I believe she struggled in that. Yeah. Yeah, I think that was one of 3 misses that I can remember from last year with her.
Yeah, and Garret, I know...
Big-time misses, unfortunately.
Yeah. Garret, thinking about the momentum that carries after you have an emotional win like that in a big stadium in front of big amounts of fans, we've seen it on the men's side. It's kind of hard. It can be hard to get comfortable and get back into the routine of league play back at the smaller stadium. But they went out and won a Pokal match later that week, 8-0 against lower division side. And then, sure enough, stumbled right out of the gate in league play, losing our first 2 matches. We see it on the men's side all the time, the emotional swing that it takes, going from the highest of highs and then getting kicked between the legs, the lowest of lows. How how much effort? Did it take too much effort, do you think, recovering from losing so early in the league table, trying to make up points when you lose to teams that are that far below you in the table, like SGS Essen?
I think the frustrating thing about it, the Launish Diva, and I think how it really applies to this women's team is we've seen this women's team when they are on, and if we want to like give ideas, when they were on last season, they hung with anyone. It didn't matter if they were Bayern. It didn't matter if they were Wolfsburg.
Yes.
It didn't matter if they were FC Barcelona. They hung on very well. But then we've also seen like the middle part of that, which, you know, one of the heartbreaking parts of Christmas, was Benfica at home and lights out, playing that everything perfect. One chance you concede, Benfica makes it Friday at penalty. And then you have to do a very hard thing, and that's try to win in Barcelona, which they didn't play that bad. They played Barcelona really well. But then you see all these things, and you see them play like to these high highs. Even the game at Wolfsburg, which was the second game, which although it was a loss, it was one of those that was like the score
They played
didn't
well.
really. Yeah, but then John, you'll know exactly because you and I think were bitching back and forth about this the following Friday against at RB Leipzig and losing that one. It's so like there was so much polarities with this team, which in a way is good because you can show how really talented, in fact, this squad is. The problem is being consistent, and this is a parallel to our frustrations we often voice on the men's side. Consistency. We're about there. We just need the consistency. If we can do that, then yeah, we have a very, very good chance to upset the top two in the card.
Absolutely.
And you alluded to it, the highest of highs with this group. I don't believe in moral victories in any sport, no matter the situation, but as close as we got, it was that loss. That was on the road, right? At Barcelona, the Thanksgiving week.
We were home.
Happy birthday.
We were home to Frankfurt. We were home on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Home. That's right. That's right.
Because we went into the half up 1-0.
You were trying to get into Niagara Falls.
I was in the Canadians custom line in Windsor, going through the tunnel in Detroit. I had no signal. We come out the other side, and my phone's blowing up about a goal, and I'm yelling, and the customs guy's looking at me and thinking whether he should turn me around. I don't know, but it's one of those things. For those that don't know, Barcelona went unbeaten in 30 league matches. Their only blemish was a single draw in the calendar. So,
well, they also
over the last couple
the
years,
first leg against Chelsea, but again against Chelsea, who won the Women's Super League. So
right, but over the last couple years, I mean, Barcelona's been the gold standard in Europe, and that's by a long distance.
It's not even close.
Play well against them, not just once. You know, losing by 2 goals twice to them on paper, it doesn't look good, but really playing a good game both times out. And that kind of left an unfortunate situation where the last round of Champions League play, match day 6, was kind of irrelevant, but, you know, they go out and win 5-0. It showed a little bit of fight. And then, of course, that downswing that Garret mentioned, losing to Wolfsburg, losing to Leipzig, and then Bayern a couple weeks later. I mean, it was just a real struggle through the winter drawl. That February was brutal. But then coming out of another international break, May comes around and they figure it out. The thing that gives me the most hope going in is that we lost control of our destiny at that point. We needed help from other places, sitting in 4th. And thankfully, victory over Hoffenheim really changed the direction of things. But winning our final 4 matches to end the season, once we lost out of the Pokal to Bayern in the penalties, of course, I feel, I'm not going to say it was a successful season, but it was a growing season. It was learning to balance multiple schedules. And while we didn't win any silverware, I feel like we grew up a bit. That was, you know, a season of growth where this is the prove it kind of year. We'll talk about why. We're not going to talk about, what the potential is for this season, but are you satisfied with the fight that they showed at the end of last year, Garret?
Yeah. I think when you look at also too, some of the people that stepped up in this club that obviously, we've talked about like the Stino Johannes's, Lara Prajnikar, Laura Freigen, but then you get to see some other players that week in, week out were often, I'd say, even more consistent. Barbara Dunst, Nicole Anyomi, even Lisanne Grevo. You look, those players, I think, really were strong in that moment. I mean, and, it was unfortunately, Verena Henshaw left for Roma in the off season, but even the season that she helped provide too is a good, it's as I call it, a transition year. Because it's frustrating some of the things that happen. And, but I will say that this team could have sank after that loss at Leverkusen. And, like you mentioned, top three not being, directly in there. They had to work to get back to that role. And they did that. I mean, they fell behind one or two times in that year and then came back strong in those matches. So I just hope now, and especially when you see some of our players have had Olympic qualifying runs. I think we had a contingent that just got bronze in Paris. Can they take that battle's contention to the next step and, continue to push onward? Because this is the Frauen Bundesliga, I think, sooner or later, it's going to be the gap is going to slim. The question is it going to be this year, another year? We'll see. But we have a chance to be the ones responsible for slimming the gap.
Yeah. John, we had to deal with some injuries, losing the captain to a long-term injury gave opportunities for some other players. The Achikos twins definitely were a surprise last year. I hadn't heard of them coming into the year. Both of them, especially Aletta, just stepping up in a way that said, I'm being called on. I'm ready. I'm going to, make sure that my spot for next year is secure. Certainly a growing up time for some players and a time to step up. Nicole Anyomi, more than anyone else, just stamping her name and, not just earning herself a full-time starting role, but also becoming a mainstay on the German women's national team as well. As far as things that stuck out last year, was there a particular player or performance that stuck out for you? And at the same time, how do you grade Niko Arnautus?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'll hit Niko at the end. For me, I think the standout player last year was Lisanne Greve. I mean, in terms of someone who, she was coming in from Leverkusen. We didn't necessarily know exactly what we were getting in her, but, there was talent there. And when Pavlek went down and Greve came in and filled in that defensive midfield spot, she just did an incredible job. Maybe, could tone down on taking shots from ridiculous lengths, but other than that, performed really well. Obviously, Anyomi, not only her becoming a mainstay on the German team, but actually playing as a striker on the German team now. Before, she was part of the rosters, but they were testing her out at different positions. But she showed that, look, I'm a striker. I'm here to score goals. Play me here, and that's what's happened. Hopefully she starts getting more regular starts for the German national team. And, like you said with the...
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, yeah. No, like you said with the Achikos twins, I had heard their names before, but obviously I hadn't really seen them play for the second team or anything. And Delaware got a few opportunities, not too many, but Aleda looked amazing when she got some opportunities. Obviously, she played quite a bit more. Unfortunately, both of them have knee injuries to start this year, though, so that's rather unfortunate.
Yeah, and before I head back to Garret, actually, I want Garrett's take on Niko before we go back to John here. Garret, how'd you feel about the way Niko managed things last year, coming in and out of competitions, rotation? We're all frustrated because he just waits till the last possible minute to sub players. And when he doesn't, I think he messes around a little bit too much with not like for like swaps. But overall, several years into Niko now, are we still comfortable with where he's at? I mean, we're still qualifying for Champions League. You know,
I was probably the angriest with Niko after the Leipzig loss away. But I think, you know, there's when he's got it right, he's got it right. And then there's those moments where, like, when we're missing something. Both matches against Benfica and like match days 3 and 4 in the Women's Champions League, which unfortunately were the reason why we didn't progress out of the group. You know, maybe the Leverkusen match at home in November where we gave up an equalizer late. But I think to end the year, you know, I think he responded well, and I think, you know, got the team, because like I said, after that Leverkusen loss, you get eliminated from Bayern in the Pokal, and the frustrations sway. I mean, yeah, you could say maybe he started to feel some pressure about the job that maybe he wasn't feeling before. And sometimes pressure forms diamonds. I'm not saying he's there yet, but I feel like, you know, you kind of live and you get that experience in a bit. So, I think obviously how we start the year is important as well, if he can, in keeping the momentum. Because like I said, you know, we had random high, like I said, we beat Juventus in the Champions League. We wrecked Sparta, Prague in the Champions League, but then, you know, we lose to Essen on the road. We blow a lead at home to Wolfsburg. So if we start, I think that's on him. He knows he has to start good. If he doesn't start good, then yeah, it could be a lot of repeat like last year, and a lot of questions could be asked again.
Yeah. So under Niko, John, 87 matches, 54 wins, 24 losses, 9 draws, 62% winning percentage. In this sport, more than any other, a voice gets stale pretty quick. Am I reading too much into this, in that the way that they ended the season, earning that Champions League spot back, that his voice is still safely heard there, that it's not a need to move on quickly? And, you know, quite frankly, in the women's game, you hear a lot less of the complaining inside the room than you do on the men's side, where it's just insufferable, and to the point where I'm kind of falling out of love with the men's game because of it. But
right.
I think for me, that final month of the season where they earned that Champions League spot back told me he's still got control of that room. Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't think he ever lost control of the room or anything like that. I think that Niko is clearly very connected with the players. Obviously, he's a local guy, loves the club, has been with the club forever, and I think he's a good motivator. I think the problem, in my opinion, with Niko is he's the safe option. You know, like, we know what we're getting with him, and that's good. You know, we're consistently getting third right now, doing well, going late into the Pokal. Obviously, that loss against Leipzig 2 seasons ago wasn't great, but, you know, the final before, and losing to Bayern in the semis this past year, I don't see where he necessarily takes the team further, unless he does some growing up. But at the same time, whether we can attract a coach that would be any better than him is also a big question mark. So yeah. I don't mind keeping Niko at all. Obviously, I do like him, but I do get frustrated with his tactics, and quite a bit. But yeah.
And as I talked about what we're going up against historically, if you're trying to catch Bayern or Wolfsburg in the table, I don't think just a new voice at the head makes a difference. It would take a serious infusion of talent that I don't think we have the money to spend on. And it's one of those things where maybe we can catch lightning in a bottle. I agree that there's more danger if we try to go a different route, that we could take a step backward. He's certainly going to maintain where we are. I don't see us falling much lower, if at all, this year, and we'll talk about that later. But I think he is far from being the challenge that's keeping us from getting over the top. So,
no, I wouldn't disagree.
Yeah, let's talk here before our break. Let's talk about the hot button issue within the club on both sides of the building this week. Nike leaving us out, or we're leaving Nike and them not doing us any favors on the way out the door, releasing maybe the worst trio of kits that we've ever seen from Nike, which might be saying a lot. I tend to enjoy Nike over the years. I'm a Nike brand loyalist. But wow, first the Marlboro kit, then, the orange, which I don't dislike the orange as much as some people. I like the stripes on it. I recognize the throwback to historical kits. And then today, being August 12th, they release the black kit, the home kit, which looks like last year's warm up, but they replaced the little collar. Instead of being black, it's now red on black with the black base. Last year's warm up was the red base with little black. What did Nathan call them? He called them tusks. That's tusks, really what it looks like. Are we ready to move to Adidas or, Nike? I feel like they've done okay overall. What's your thoughts, John? You go first.
Yeah, I mean, I do generally like Nike kits, but I think that this year with them, knowing that, they're kind of a lame duck this year and clearly did not give a lot of effort into it. The Marlboro kit is something. The star on the bottom of it just kills me every time I see it. I can't stand that. The aways that were released today, just if it weren't for the tusks, it would be a very boring kit, but okay-ish, I guess. But those tusks really make it look like the practice kits from last year, and it's bad. The orange kits, I like them. I don't like that they still have the same Nike template from last year up on the shoulders, where it kind of cuts off the stripes from going all the way up the jersey, just like how last year that happened with the vertical stripes. But I think that one's okay. Hopefully we get a European kit that isn't absolutely terrible, but I'm definitely not having high hopes for that at this point.
Now, that's where I was going to send it to Garrett. I've been a big fan of the European kits the last couple of years. I got the one up on the wall over there with the map on it, with the single stripe. Garrett, can Nike do anything to save your hopes with the European kit this year?
So to give people some added context. This situation with Eintracht Frankfurt and Nike this year is like what we're experiencing here in the United States with Major League Baseball. The first year that Nike was responsible for their templates. However, it's somebody else that was manufacturing. Nike provides the materials, they slap their name on it, and it's a whole bunch of shit for baseball. Here, for soccer, for Eintracht Frankfurt, football, the Adler, John knows I fucking hate the shoulder template on the top. It ruined an absolute, could have been all-timer home kit last year. That being said, that's kind of why I like leaning the Marlboro just a little bit more. The Marlboro one is not completely great, however, because there's the front chevron, there's the pattern of the chevron on the front, but it doesn't have the same pattern on the top of the back. So, no symmetry, no great. Orange kit, historical significance. People have been wanting the orange kit again. They didn't get it in 2020 for the third because people loved Applevine. They saw the gold kit, Applevine, boom. Gold kit gets the alternate for 2 seasons. So, this year's kit, it's the same thing as the white and the black last year, tusks. The only thing I might be intrigued by is, I don't know if it's the Frankfurt video graphic, the red in the black kit looks a little bit darker. I could be wrong. Chris knows I like a darker red for biased reasons locally, outside of here. And I don't know what to expect with this European kit because there's been so many black kits over the years because here's a black away kit. Here's a black European kit. Here's a black special kit. So I love black, but we also have red as a club color. We also have white as a club color. Maybe throw in something for that for Europe. but I'm ready for Adidas. I'm three-stripe life. Let's go.
You ready? I've always been a fan of Eintracht and the stripes. For me, that is our identity, is the black and red stripes. Generally, we haven't done that for European kits. But if we, if they really want to do throwbacks, like you were saying, John, the star on the side, I didn't even notice it till we saw them in Louisville, and they're like, that looks absolutely horrible. Don't do things, accidentally stupid. If you're going to do something stupid, make it intentional. That's just
go full stupid.
Like an afterthought.
Go full stupid.
Go full stupid. But I don't know. The point I was trying to get to, if they want to get creative with the away uniforms and try to do something old school, go with stripes. The black and red stripes on the Eintracht Frankfurt kit is as classic as it gets. And I think that would be a nice mea culpa to all of us who have been like, yeah, we're going to get one more Nike kit to put in the closet, and then nobody wants to buy it now. Maybe we're a little biased, but I'm not buying either one.
I'm going to say for me, because you were bringing up classic ideas, I think a lot about the 1980 Europa Cup video highlight film that is some much grainy quality on YouTube, but is a great kit thing if you're a nerd on that. Eintracht Frankfurt occasionally had a kit, and I think they wore it against Staub or Cresti in the second leg of around, and it was black shorts, red top, black collar. And I'm talking black polo collar, like a little on there.
Cool.
And even one of my favorite my home kits from 1978-79 season, solid red kit, white Adidas 3 stripes, black shorts. So you have the colors there.
I'm not ready for the 3 stripes just because Adidas puts them everywhere. I don't mind it under the arm.
Except for Detroit City kits. But that's our choice here.
They've ruined that enough as it is. But yeah, anyway, let's move on to hashtag what are we drinking. I am drinking because our kit selection sucks. But my beer selection, it's outstanding. That's a hell of a segue. That might be my best ever. I'm still working my way through the Kentucky beers from Country Boy Brewing. I've got a Cliff Jumper IPA. Not a big IPA guy, but this one is slightly juicy, not too juicy. It's not even labeled juicy, but yeah, it's a delicious IPA from the backwoods of Kentucky. John, what about you? What have you had lately?
Right now, the Meritzens have gotten in stock in one of the stores around me, so I've got myself some Paulaner Meritzen.
Do it. It's good stuff.
It's so good. It's finally below 80 degrees as well this week, so it's perfect.
Yeah, it feels almost like fall here. I'm ready for college football. I'm ready for Bundesliga, Frauen Bundesliga. Like, the weather started to change. I know it's going to be like 90 next week. I'm going to hate myself for getting excited. But Garrett, what are you drinking over there?
You were talking about the weather being great. I was feeling cold this morning because I've been having my windows down in my car driving into work. And maybe it's because, we got Pokal this weekend. I have my English Eagles starting this weekend. So I have a cup right now, of red rose tea, straight up on there. The second cup after this is probably going to have a little bit of skim milk in it. Just because it's nighttime and I need to go to bed at a decent hour. But it is a glorious time. And for that, it's tea time.
I still don't know how you deal with having a second Eagles team. It's hard enough having one that, struggles sometimes. I can't imagine your position with 2 Eagles.
And you have Frankfurt Reminders and Ollie Glasler and Daichi Kamada.
And Kamada.
Isle of Kamada, let's go.
I'm about it.
All right. We're going to take a break here. Wherever you're drinking, we're right there next to you. And whatever you're drinking, we say post. Welcome back. Segment 2. Hey, Eintracht Frankfurt. This is our Eintracht Frankfurt Frauen season preview for the 24-25 season. I cannot believe this is my 5th season doing this. It's been a long time. Man, guys, John and Garrett here with me. We talked a lot about what happened last season. Let's talk about the upcoming season now. We're going to go through this in a systemic kind of way. Let's talk about expectations from individual players. I'm going to name a player and you tell me where they need to improve or what you expect to see from them. If you can't throw a number of goals or something like that, show me what you want to see them better at. Garrett, I'm going to start with you. Laura Freigang.
Convert penalties consistently. Apart from that, keep doing what you're doing. You're excellent.
I want Laura Freigang to be that person, when there's a penalty, she's the one stepping up. But also I need more. It's hard to say we need more out of her because she just facilitates everything. When this team is going well, it's because she's playing well. John, are we expecting too much out of her? Have we always expected too much out of her based on what she did in that, was it 21-22 season? Are we asking too much?
I think that we have very high expectations of her, but I don't think they're unwarranted. I think she has high expectations of herself as well, and yeah, I don't think we expect too much. But quite frankly, really the main issue with her last year was the missed penalties. Obviously there were some games, some stretches where she disappeared, but that's going to happen with every player. I think that she had a lot going on, from the World Cup loss to, contract situation, other teams being really interested in her over the summer. I think there was a lot going on with her last year, and now that it's all been shored up, and she's just coming off a bronze medal at the Olympics. Hopefully, she can be a lot more consistent this year.
Yep, I'm with you. And the next player, John, is someone who kind of put Laura Freigang out there in her best position quite frequently over the last couple of years. Laura Prashnikar.
What a player. Yeah.
I mean, the straw that stirs the drink here. Really, anything that happens offensively, it's coming off of her feet. Is she at her ceiling? Can we ask more from her?
I'm thinking that she's probably about at her ceiling. I don't think that's a bad thing. How many goals did she score last year?
I think if anything for me, that's because I think she's really, really talented, and I think she turned out to be a great service provider, especially for Anyomi. Maybe just a couple more goals, if anything, because I think she's had some moments that she didn't convert.
Yeah, she only had 4 goals last year, but she had 7 assists. If she can add some more goals, because the year before she also had scored quite a bit. So yeah, that would be.
That's a note that I put down for her. Shoot the damn ball, because she
had 14 the year before and 11 the year before that.
Yeah, she's had the ball in the box a lot and will look for a pass. And not that that's bad because she's our top assist person, but at the same time, we could be in a better position if she's shooting the ball a bit more. The next one, midfielder Barbara Dunst, another one that is just quietly very important to everything that's happened here. John, Barbara Dunst, 26 years old. Has she met her potential, or is there still more to ask?
26 years old, and this is, the same case with Freigang and with Prashnikar, is you're not really going to see a lot of growth anymore after you're 26. Unfortunately, that's just the way aging curves generally work. Obviously, there are plenty of exceptions, but even if she doesn't grow anymore, I don't think that's an issue, because in my opinion, she was our best player last year and is such a great midfielder, gets the ball forward, scores, assists. She does everything really, really well. If she's at her peak, which probably she is, that's completely fine.
Yeah, she's played really well for Austria too. Done a lot of good
Yeah.
stuff for the national team, and that experience has come over. Garret, to you, Sophia Kleinern. I was shocked that she re-signed with us. I'm not shocked because I'm glad she did. But with some of the names that were, the clubs that were being attached to her and the amount of money that she could have left for, it says a lot that she's here to open this season. She's the most important part of that defense by a mile. I don't really have any notes on her. I'm just excited to see her here another year. How about you?
I think for anything for me, when you started seeing the transition from Erste FFC to, Eintracht Frankfurt Frauen, Sophia Kleiner was one of those instantly recognizable, dare I say maybe the Frauen's version of Kevin Trapp, right? That name, the face that you saw that you could associate to this team, if you hadn't seen them play a match before. This past year, I think she had a little bit of an injury bug. To someone that I feel like you kind of went under the radar, I think, a little bit because of the level of performances from some others. So maybe perhaps for that might be that type of thing. If you can limit the injuries as much as possible, because, like I said, she's a prominent face. She is an important figure in this side. Maybe more, and I argue she's talented on the field, but I argue maybe she's maybe even more talented off the field and more to the squad, I would say spine, but somebody I think that has a big part in how this squad gels. I think when I think of Kleiner.
Now, John, she's 24. She played in a Euros last year, 2 years ago. She played in the Olympics this year. At 24 years old, she's got 5 seasons in the league and 132 appearances. That's pretty impressive. For our most important defender, there's no reason she can't take a leadership role on this team, even at her young age.
Yeah, absolutely. I think she already is somewhat of a leader in the locker room. I think you saw, the response when she re-signed by the other players was very indicative of that, I think. Although I would say, I do think Sarah Dorson is also very, very important to that defense.
Agreed.
But and again, Kleinherne last year was playing center back, whereas before she had been playing right back. And, she's a versatile player, and just very important. And, at 24, she does still have a little bit of room to grow. I'm excited to see what she can do next year.
Yep. 2 newcomers, and then I'm going to leave the floor open to you guys. Elisa Sens coming over from Bayer Leverkusen, a big signing for us in the midfield. Looking back at her totals, it's kind of under the radar for a midfielder to play with Leverkusen 2 seasons, 43 appearances, 1 goal. But she's always on the ball. She reminds me on the men's side of Jabril So, just kind of directing traffic up and down the pitch. And I think that that's something that really might help this team that's already organized take things to the next level. What do you think, John?
Yeah, no, I agree. She's a fantastic player, honestly. Really good defensively. She carries the ball up the field well. She passes well. Huge signing for us. I think the biggest thing is going to be Niko figuring out where to fit her in, because, she could play as a 6, she plays as an 8. I'm thinking she'll probably just interchange with Reuteler and Dunst. I think that's going to be the kind of rotation in that 4-4-2 diamond, and she'll be in that middle part of that midfield, I think.
And Garret, we can't underestimate some of these players coming back from the Olympics. I think we had 5, including Johannes, who was on the bench for Germany.
6, I think.
6, sorry. Garret, it's going to take a bit of time. That's a good number of people to come back in. I know they've been training, they've been playing, but getting them, acclimated and letting Niko really see, what kind of legs they have. Because it's not just that they went to the Olympics. That camp before the Olympics was 2.5 weeks long. And then they played through the Olympics and the training there. So really their summer break was 3 weeks. And then I assume they're going to give them a week or 2 now that they're back. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting how they work some of these players back in. Sarah Dorson, Garret, featured in the Olympics and now has got to come back and work her way back into that defense. Where, Garret, is the position group of concern with this group?
I think, maybe, dare I say to an extent, maybe that base of the midfield, if you think about it, because you're bringing in Lintz, who I think has the potential to be the engine, and maybe I see her more as a 6, especially when you look at Pavlik coming back from injury, because she's also got to get reps in consistently before, she gets back to herself. And then you got, Dunst, who you think is going to probably be the in and out. But then Grevo and Reutler, who's going to be the, so you're going to have a little bit. So you're going to have this group where it might not be the most consistent 4 in the diamond, but you're going to have to figure out, I could see, it sounds like Lintz could be the engine, or dare I say, if we're quoting cars, maybe the structure, the suspension to keep the everything going in. Dorson, obviously, I think had a really solid, and she was clutch with some big goals last year when the time needed to. So what does that mean? Because also now, with Hanshaw gone, you have to fill in the flanks, your left fullback, in a way. And
John's got a good one on that one.
Yeah, but also
Nina Lurtzen.
Yeah, but also Ramina Chiba. She had a great end of the year. So now she's got a full year into the squad. How much can she make a step into that? And then she might help spark this midfield. Grevo's what, 22, right? 22, 23, or is she 21?
I think she's 20, 21. Yeah, she's really young.
So we saw some great strides from her last year in her first year for Leverkusen, but we still haven't hit the ceiling yet. So that might be, we may not be able to see what this midfield can bring, but there might be some untapped potential.
Yeah. John, I know you.
I think.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
I was going to say, Garret was mentioning Sense as the 6. The reason that I had her more as an 8 is because I think that Lysana Greve has shown enough where I think even with Pavlik coming back, I think Greve should be the starting 6.
Okay.
And I don't think that she quite has the skill set to be one of the 8s. I think the 6 is the right spot for her. But now Sense can also play the 6, and that would be very, very much fine with me.
And you can also double pivot too, depending on matchups.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I would love to see Niko experiment with different formations,
Well, now you're asking Niko to experiment, and that's maybe not going to happen a lot. But I think what you have is you have a lot of young players who have the speed, but also they have experience. I mean, Lurtzen coming in at 24 years old with 126 appearances, and we went through the number of appearances for these other 24, 25, 22-year-olds who have, 80 to 100 appearances on their own. I think we can be a little adaptable with shapes and positioning because they have that experience. And at worst, you realize, hey, this isn't working out. But at the best, you might find a combination that really clicks.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at our team, really the only objectively old player is Sarah Dorson, who is still playing at a very high level.
Yes, absolutely.
This even though we have a lot of, 26-ish year olds, this team is in their prime, and I'm excited to see what they can do.
I almost feel like at times, use that young age and play with tempo. When this team plays with tempo, they're at their strength.
Yeah. Don't play scared right now. If anything, we have the youthful exuberance to push forward and the experience to know when to sit back. And now that we look at individual players, let's look a bit more towards the team. One player I left off of our individual discussion, Nicole Aniomi. From the team perspective, do we all assume she's going to lead the team in goals?
Probably.
Yeah,
I don't think it's really a question, honestly. She's just that good.
Yeah. That's why I didn't need much time for it. It's just clearly obvious.
Yeah, that's a consistent.
Now, how many will she have?
Ooh,
I'm hoping for a good 13, maybe.
How much did she have in league play last year?
I knew you were going to ask that.
No, she had 11.
She had 11?
She had 11 in league play. Yeah.
I think
I'm hoping for a little bit more.
I think she gets 15 or more.
15 would be amazing. I mean, it's only 22 games, so...
Yeah, but if we throw in
Or
Champions League, I think if she could throw in 20 across all competitions, we'll be in good shape.
Man, 20
because, but let
like
me tell you why that is, because that means we're running deep into a Pokal, or we're running into Champions League knockout stages. If she has 15 in all competitions, we're happy. If she has 20 in all competitions, that means we're playing a lot of competitions.
And form is form. It doesn't matter. Form can overset. Like, you could be tired as hell, but if you're on a heater, you're on a heater.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's talk about the goalkeeping position now. Obviously, Stina Johannes is the incumbent, and there's no reason to think that she's going to lose that anytime soon. She really kept us in some matches last season. And the international experience, going to the Olympics, she didn't feature, but she went. She was a part of it. This is something for her where I really feel confident if the defense can hold up in front of her and take care of the regular business, she can get back to what she does in making big saves in big moments. I argued 2 years ago that we had the best 1-2 goalie combination in the world between Kevin Trapp and Meryl Froms. I would love to get back to having that debate with fans of other teams, but I need a lot more from Kevin Trapp, and I need a little more from Stina Johannes before we get to that point. But I think she has the potential to be at that level of a Froms.
I also think that bringing in Leah Paulik will push her a little bit more. I think Cara Bosel did well. And obviously Paulik didn't have the greatest of years for Nuremberg last year. She only played 8 games, conceded 19 goals. But that defense was really terrible, and they did worse in the games without her. The year before, in the second Frauen Bundesliga, she played 25 games, 10 clean sheets, only 31 goals conceded. She's got some skill, and hopefully she can push Johannes in training to really get to the best that she can be.
Healthy competition is good competition.
Shown that she's made. Yep.
All right. I love it. So regarding the team this year, not prediction time yet, but if this team is going to win a piece of silverware, leave that open for any of the 3 competitions. If this team is going to win a piece of silverware this year, what has to happen, Garrett?
Consistent performances. The moment when you're not consistent, you turn off for just a second or two or a little bit. But those times that we turned off were the moments that bit us and cost us. So I think it's just, we know what this team can do. The potential's there. They just have to be that consistency. If they turn it up just a little bit more, they're in the running for it.
Against the best teams, they play their best ball. But against the worst teams, they play their worst. And that's a terrifying position to be in. John, the easiest competition to win, is it the Pokal?
Yeah, I think it's the Pokal.
I don't think there's any question.
I mean, it's the fewest games, and it's the fewest opportunities to go up against the best teams. Yeah. I mean, that said, it's still very hard to win, because we do have to go up against some good teams by the end.
The last team not named Wolfsburg to win it
was us, right?
FFC.
Or not us, but the previous version of
2013-2014. It's been a decade of dominance for Wolfsburg in the Cup. All right, let's talk about the league. 22 weeks and 12 teams, so 11 matches, 1 at home, 1 away against each of the other 11. Give me your top 3 and the team most likely to be relegated. Start with Garrett.
Right. Relegated last year with Duisburg and Nuremberg, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Who are the promoted?
Potsdam and Karl Siena.
Karl Siena is one of the teams to go down. Turbine Potsdam is a historic name, and I think sometimes you need that moment to like wake back up. The second team to go down, 50+1 donor is going to be pissed at me, but FC Cologne is going to be the second team going down. And I don't forgive them because they had Aladou who scored when he went. Yeah, but that's a different story. That's a different podcast.
Top 3.
I know. Bayern won it last year, and we're pretty confident and pretty rolling. VfL Wolfsburg 3rd. Eintracht Frankfurt 2nd. Bayern Munich 1st.
Are you sure that's just regular tea? There's nothing special sprinkled in there?
Man,
that is a hell of a prediction.
Maybe it's this hair I'm rocking right now, but I got some added confidence.
Garrett, how far do we go in the Pokal and Champions League?
Oh, it's obviously without knowing what group we're in for Champions League.
Yep. Are we getting out of the qualifier?
We got to make it to the group first.
We'll get out of the qualifier. We'll get out of the group, but go out in the first knockout. Pokal will win.
Okay. And, this is bold. John?
I'll go league first, and I was also going to do the bold prediction of Bayern 1, Eintracht Frankfurt 2, and Wolfsburg 3.
Let's go!
You know what? Wolfsburg, they've lost Lena Oberdorf, they've lost Eva Pajor, and they've lost Dominique Janssen. Those are big names. They replaced Oberdorf with Janina Minga. Good player, but it's still a downgrade. And they replaced Pajor with Lilith Berenstein, who, again, good player, but a downgrade. They've also got Sarai Linder in, who replaces Felicitas Rausch, who left in the winter. They've got a good squad, but, again, their coach is leaving next summer, so he's somewhat of a lame duck. I think if there's 1 year to overtake Wolfsburg, it's this year. Don't get me wrong, they still have an amazing squad and a very deep squad, but they will be competing on 3 fronts as well, so... in terms of Pokal, I think we go to the semis again, where we'll probably lose out to one of Wolfsburg or Bayern, unless they fortunately play each other in that. And then Champions League, I don't know. I feel like we either lose to Sporting or we make it out of the group. I feel like it's one of those, we either fail at first or we get pretty far. I'm going to say we make it out of the group. But we probably lose in the first knockout round. Just because it's a round of 8, and that's hard.
Who are your 2 to go down in Frauen Bundesliga?
I think both the promoted teams, Karl Siena and Turbine Potsdam, go down.
All right.
I don't see anyone else in the league doing that poorly. Maybe Bremen, they lost a little bit, but they made some decent signings, so I don't know. Cologne is a possibility too, for sure. They lost some players, but I don't know. They got Lara Feisinger now, so.
So I'm going to start with the league. I'll say that last year in league play, Cologne scored 25 goals in 22 matches. That is a recipe for relegation every day or every year. That's just brutal.
And they lost all their strikers too.
Yeah, and if you can't score, you can't survive. So I got Cologne going down and CZJ just not enough coming up to keep them safe. Potsdam, I think, will rebound a little bit enough to be safe. They're not going to be anywhere near their traditional 4 spot, but they'll recover enough to keep safe. You guys have me starting to question myself a little bit because on my notes here, it literally says don't predict top 2. I literally typed it out. you guys
we're
have
not
me
you, though.
getting all
We're
excited.
not you, though.
I know. You guys are much smarter than me. I'm gonna stick with Bayern 1, Wolfsburg 2, and Eintracht 3. I'm not saying we can't. I'll put us at like 2.5 because I could see us taking that next step. But until we're able to take points and from those we should and steal points from the top. I mean, we came so close. 5 back of the title a couple years ago, 3 back from second. But the step back last year was a lot. And as far as the table goes, it's a lot to make up. But if we can take care of business there, it's okay. Now, here's where I'm going to throw things off a bit. Oh, by the way, looking at how we can take steps forward. Goals for, we had 42 last year. Wolfsburg had 67, Bayern had 60. But the goals against, we allowed 25. And Wolfsburg allowed 19 and Bayern allowed 8. That shows you to jump into that top 2 just how much better you have to be trying to eke out these games by 1 goal and then ultimately settling for 1 point instead of 3. That's going to take us out of contention really early if we're not picking up the points against SGE or Leipzig, who's, so much further down the table. We can't be giving up those points where we should take them.
Right.
Now, getting to Champions League. Well, let me go to the Cup first. I think we're going to go to the final. I'm a firm believer, especially having watched Eintracht Frankfurt for so long. This club is all about learning and doing things right the next time around. And the way that they went out in the penalty kicks against Bayern last year, having some of our more reliable players struggling with penalties in critical positions last year, I believe we're going to get to the final. I mean, it's a crapshoot at that point who's going to actually win. But there's going to be a point where we say enough's enough and we move ourselves into a final and play for a trophy. Champions League, I'm with John on this. We're either losing to Sporting or we're getting out of the group. The others that are going to be in that group in Iceland, Minsk plays Royblik, the host from Iceland. I butchered that. So for our listeners in Iceland, I apologize. Flights are cheap from Detroit. I'm still eyeing that as a potential go-to. It's like
Chris is going to get loaded on Reka vodka.
You have to do it. You have to do it.
I really want to. I got to find a reason to spin it, but anyway.
There's no reason other than it's Eintracht.
That's true. And it's the cheapest flight I'll ever get to see them play. But yeah. I have big questions about beating Sporting. The first match of the season against Freiburg yesterday. Granted, we're without 5 players for that friendly yesterday, but a 1-0 victory in a friendly. We've been okay in preseason friendlies here without some top players. 3-0 against Mainz, 1-1 against Leverkusen. It's been a long opening to this season, but I have a lot of concerns about opening up and being ready on day 1 with a group that's already played a lot of summer football. And I think if we're going to fall out of a competition very early, it's going to be the Champions League losing that opening to Sporting. But maybe that's the blessing in disguise to get everyone straightened out later in the year.
Possibly. And you got to remember, that Sporting team, they were almost identical to Benfica in the league last year. This is not going to be an easy match. I think if we get through that, we'll win the second match. I mean, Breidablik is solid. They're second in the Icelandic league right now. Haven't given up many goals. Minsk, if they somehow win, I don't know. That league, just looking at the goal differentials in that Belarusian league, it's comical, honestly. I mean, they've got a plus 100 goal differential right now, like 12 games into the season or something.
How much?
1 second. Let me pull it up for real quick. Their goal differential right now is 113 through 19 matches.
Dude, I could do that on FIFA. Like that's exactly. Not real.
Last year through 30 matches, they had a goal differential of 198. The top team in that league had 225 goals for last year, 1 goal against.
And that's where you kind of take that with a grain of salt. They might be good, but if you look at the league top to bottom, it's
exactly.
one team is professionals and the rest are throwing out the dentist or something like that. It's
exactly. It definitely.
But again, I would love to get to that point where we're talking that, but right now we got to get through Sporting, and that's the one that concerns me the most. So
I think it's learn from Benfica. Learn from Benfica to take on Sporting.
We have to be physical. We have to come out quick, or we're going to get caught.
And kill the game off early. The schedule
coming up. Eintracht Frauen open the season against newly promoted Karl Zeiss Jena on the 31st of August. That is a home matchup against them. And then we go right over to Iceland for Champions League play, and my computer stopped. That is September 4th, that matchup against Sporting. It will be available. We will have streams out. We'll get to that much closer to that point. But that's going to do it for the Frauen preview. The men's preview will come up later this week and hopefully get to you before that cup match Monday. We got a lot to talk about there, a lot to go over on the men's side. For as much turnover as there was on the women's side, the men's group has been equally as interesting to look at. Big name went out recently, and we're waiting on new signings. Clock's ticking, but we'll get to that one later this week. Guys, it's been fun. Garrett, where do we find you?
You can find me Twitter, Instagram, Discord at GM Komatz, also now Twitch, for maybe local connection reasons on here. Also, another thing, follow up for Chris, if you haven't followed the Hey Eintracht Frankfurt YouTube channel, please click the subscribe. There'll be some good fun there'll be some more content coming down that way. Some match recaps on there. I'll see if Brian asked me again if I got a perm after the last one that I done. And yeah.
It looks good. I like it. Keep it going.
Yeah. Yeah. Although somebody told me, my Detroit City folks told me recently, it might just because of the stubble I was having, that it looked like David Koresh. If you're not sure of that, look up Wikipedia. So yeah, that's all I'm going to leave on that one. But, locally 451 DET for Detroit City stuff, and the Majors Detroit for Detroit sports content.
John, where do we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ben_JBen. That's Ben with 2 N's. Or on Instagram at JohnBen33.
And we are all on the HEFpod Discord. A link to join that group is on HEFpod.com. If you do go there, Nathan will cut your legs off and send you back to Google if you can't provide a good reason why you're there. So be nice to the gatekeeper. He does hard work. And of course, you can find me at CND313, Peloton, Instagram, Discord. Sorry, can't say Instagram anymore. At Chris N. Monroe on Instagram. Hey Eintracht Frankfurt on Instagram. At HEFpod on Twitter, X, Musk.com, whatever you call it. But yeah, we'll get back to you later this week with a men's preview for the 24-25 season. Till then, cheers. We called them Tusks.
If it weren't for the Tusks.
Tusks.